Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second IDSC International Conference, Disability and Resistance, Disability, Resistance, Disruption and Transgression. This year round, the Indian Disability Studies Collective is hosting this conference in association with the Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Khalsa College, Delhi University, the Guru Angad Dev Teaching Learning Center of SGTB Khalsa College, the Center for Disability Research and Training, Kirorimal College, Delhi University. The IDSC was formed in 2019 with the express aim of talking about, spreading about, thinking about disability studies to aspiring research scholars, to scholars who are already talking about it, to faculty members across nationwide. And the conferences that are organized under the aegis of the IDSC, along with other institutions, are done towards the same purpose. Now I would officially like to begin the conference and would like to welcome Professor Someshwar Sati, the chairperson for IDSC, to come and say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Ridwik. Professor Vibha Singh Chauhan, Principal, Kirorimal College. Professor Jaswinder Singh, Principal, Khalsa College. Professor Tom Shakespeare, the distinguished keynote speaker for the day. Professor Vimal Rar, esteemed members of the IDSC, and dear participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is my proud privilege to welcome you all to the IDSC International Conference 2021. As Ritwik just shared with you, the Indian Disability Studies Collective was formed in 2019. On May 5th of this year, disability scholars from across India, from Lucknow in the north to Chennai in the south, Ahmedabad in the west to Calcutta in the east, came together in the seminar room of Kirorimal College and expressed with a deep sense of anguish the fact that disability was yet to become a part of the academic consciousness in India. It was unanimously felt that something needed to be done to promote disability studies as a legitimate field of academic inquiry. So with the expressed intention of popularizing the discipline amidst the academia in India, 12 distinguished disability studies scholars came together and formed an academic association, which today goes by the name of the Indian Disability Studies Collective. It was our cherished goal to disseminate and popularize the study of disability all over the country, to visit smaller centers and get students who had never thought of disability as a possible field of academic inquiry to engage with the discipline. For this purpose, we decided to have an annual conference at different places. We are extremely grateful to Professor Ranu Unyal, who agreed to host the inaugural conference at Lucknow University in the Department of English and other European languages. So it was there that our journey began. If in Lucknow, the topic of the conference was deglobalizing disability, which would mean that our intention was to demonstrate that disability was not a universal category of human experience. That disability manifested itself and continues to manifest itself variously in different historical and cultural conjunctures. The intention here is to problematize the idea of disability and try to understand how can normative understandings of corporeal difference and embodiment be problematized through concepts of resistance, disruption, and transgression. The term resistance itself is very problematic. It is a complex phenomena which has been interpreted variously over the ages. For many, resistance is just the act of acting in an autonomous manner in self-interest. For others, resistance means battling and fighting, control. And yet others feel that resistance is just moving forward without any form of opposition. Given this wide range of semantic underpinnings of the term resistance, we are here together to try to contemplate on how can the normative forms and understandings of corporeal embodiment be problematized? Can we evolve different ways of thinking and understanding disability? What are the possibilities of evolving alternatives to the normative mode of defining disability? How should we go about the process of instituting alternative ways of thinking and knowing about corporeal difference and embodiment? Over the next 5 days, I'm sure that we shall unpack all these questions in a variety of ways. There is little doubt that the normative understanding of disability needs to be resisted, disrupted, and transgressed. The real question is, how can this be done? For example, the very unconscious act of a blind man traveling on his own questions the stereotypes of blind people being dependent, unable to move on their own. So, is that a form of resistance? Does that question the standard understandings of stereotypes of blind people? At times, we can resist, disrupt, and transgress power structures in very simple ways through our day-to-day behavior, through our attitudes to life, without really being overtly combative. On other occasions, resistance takes the form of overt combat, identity protest movements on the road. There are calls for legislations blocking of roads. This is also a form of resistance. And at times, curiously enough, from within the dominant establishment itself, notions of disability are unsettled. Look at the way that COVID completely changed our attitudes towards the phenomena of washing hands. Compulsive habit of washing hands earlier was understood as a psychological deformity. But now it is a much desired and perhaps the most rational act that one can perform during one's daily routine, constantly washing hands. So, has the conventional understanding of obsessive compulsive behavior been disrupted and transgressed? These are some of the questions that we need to raise over the next few days. To what degree should we resist the system and how? Does resistance really result in the creation of an agency? Or can agency for the disabled also be acquired and achieved within the dominant structure? This is a very tricky question. For example, we just had the Tokyo Olympics. Para-athletes from the world over were hailed, their achievements celebrated. But is this an act of resistance or disruption or even transgression? Or is this a way of co-opting the disabled population of the world within a normative structure of power? So, ladies and gentlemen, I invite all of you to think about these questions over the next 5 days, and let us try to unsettle the normative structures of power that have been scripted by the non-disabled for the non-disabled, in the hope that we will create a more inclusive and equitable, egalitarian society. But before I close, I think it's my responsibility and heartfelt desire to thank Professor Vibha Singh Chauhan, Principal, Kirori Mal College, and Professor Jaswinder Singh, Principal, Khalsa College, for giving us the opportunity to organize this conference under their patronage. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I really hope that everyone will have a great time and great food for thought during the following 10 sessions. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sati. As a continuation, I would request Professor Jaswinder Singh, Principal, SGTB Khalsa College, to please come and say a few words of encouragement.
Thank you, Ritvik. Let me at the outset, express my gratitude to Professor Someshwar Sati ji, who is the chairperson of IDSC. Professor Vibha Chauhan, the principal, Kirori Mal College, University of Delhi. My colleagues, Dr. Shaikot Ghosh, Dr. Madhvi, Ritvik Bhattacharya, and my colleague in Guru Angad Dev Teaching Learning Center, Dr. Vimal Rar, rather Professor Vimal Rar, and all the colleagues who are joining from different parts of the country on this very, very special workshop on the disability. The resistance, disruption, and transgression, these are very, important areas within the disability, which we need to understand. I express my gratitude to all the colleagues who have thought of collaborating with the two important institutions, IDSC and Inaugural College, because Professor Vibha Chauhan herself is a very committed person in this area, and we have been taking lead from her in University of Delhi. And Professor Someshwar Sati, who is an expert in this area, and I'm sure, many of us will benefit from his address, and also, the concept and the narratives which he has discussed and which he has mentioned that it needs to be re-understood, in a certain sense, that the concepts given by the established scholars who may not be suffering from some sort of disability, for the able persons, and also, for the disabled sections of our society, may not be the appropriate structures to deliberate upon. So if we really are interested in building up the egalitarian system, which is accessible and understood by all, needs to be revisited. So this is a very important lead which Professor Sati has given us. But before we thought of having this 1 week workshop, we are not calling this to the faculty development program. We thought about that because we thought that it will give the teachers who are participating some sense of entitlement for the promotions. But then later on, Dr. Shaikar, Ritvik, and my colleague Dr. Vimal, they thought that rather than calling it a 1 week faculty development program, let us have a general workshop where the concepts should be properly understood by us. We are in the process of developing National Curriculum Framework under the National Education Policy 2020. And the National Education Policy, rather the new education policy, does talk about inclusiveness, and it also is giving us, some sort of an opportunity to be the global leader in terms of giving and accessing education. There are many new initiatives which are being undertaken, and the whole higher education regulatory framework is being given a new sort of orientation, whereby after due deliberations, because we were also part of some suggestions, the various verticals which have been set up under the national education policy, their aim is not only to provide the structures, but also to ensure that the people are able to access education. Because higher education develops the critical minds. It gives us the opportunity not only to restructure our own thinking, but also to bring in the new, interactive frameworks. And, the challenge is not merely in terms of laying down the policy. The bigger challenge is that how do we put them into practice? So that, if the government in the statistical sense, if it wants to raise the gross enrollment ratio from 27% to about 50% in the next 15 years, then how do we achieve these targets? I think when at the UGC level, many of us will recall that when we were discussing the choice-based credit system, these issues were again discussed, and it was thought that, the special sections and the special, studies should be incorporated. Even though that was, the mention was made, but I don't think due attention was given at that time that areas like disability studies needs to be properly integrated into the formal, structures of the university. I'm glad that the Department of English in University of Delhi and some other departments have taken the leads, and there have been, discussions. But I think just as we teach environment, everybody needs to be properly sensitized about the needs of the society. Disability does not mean only the physical disability. It also means the economic and social disability. There are certain sections of the society which are continuously ignored by our social structures, by our social systems, to be away from the, the main sections. So how do we bring them into the system? Of course, there have been issues about reservations. There have been issues about, the special attention or the focus attention. But we find that still, a lot needs to be done. And the proper narratives need to be developed so that they become active participants in this process. Only then we can say that, disability studies are succeeding and they need to be understood properly. So far, we say that our social systems, even though it is hugely cost and class driven, or our society is divided on these lines. But I think along with other disabilities, the social disabilities need to be properly understood. They may not need as much reservation as it is made of, but what do they need more is that it is the intellectual integration with the system which is more important. So the disability studies, needs to understand how to bring them into the mainstay. And you can see this is happening in Punjab. For a very long time, we ignored the relatively ignored sections of the society, and now the time has come when every political party is saying that they need to be given proper proper platforms so that they can exert, they can formulate the policies. And it already happened in Uttar Pradesh, and where they were given the time to, when the entire society, the political structures, they give them the time to rethink on these lines. So the disability studies, they need to integrate these social movements also to bring about proper egalitarian structure in the system, and also to remove the social discrimination. I am saying it from a social, from a student, economics students point of view. I may not be as articulate as my literature colleagues are, but I think these are very important things with which the society struggles continuously, with which the society, deliberates continuously. Each one of us believes that these discriminations, either based on disabilities, based on the physical problems or the social structures, they need to be properly understood. And the educational needs of the society should also be properly restructured, and their participation in the system can be very, very predominant. And it is not only in the Indian system. I have seen this happening in Europe. I have seen this happening in North America. The disability studies, they need to be appropriately understood and integrated into the main educational structures. I will not go beyond this, but I will definitely request Ritvik that if we are doing the recording, kindly share some of the leading thoughts, so that it can give others also a chance who may not be joining in this 1-week workshop, but who can, get access to our website and make use of this. Rather, I would still further go that if you can edit some of the important lectures, and we can bring a video, conglomeration of the same and give access to many of us who would be interested, but who may not otherwise be able to join this conference. Once again, I express my gratitude to Professor Sati, Professor Vibha Chauhan, Ritvik ji, Shaikot and Madhvi ji, and all my colleagues who are joining from different parts, because it is the participation, it is the discussion, it is the common platforms where we can express our views, where we can listen to others and bring about something which can be helpful to our educational system. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. And it's true, all of the things that you said, because society is a big integral part of where we live, and disability does figure. We are recording the sessions, and all the sessions will be put up on the English department YouTube channel, which we can always put up on the department on the college website as well, and then go ahead. Thank you so much for your kind words. Thank you so much for everything that you have done and all the encouragement that you have given. And we shall, your permission, move ahead. And I would like to invite Professor Vibha Chauhan, Principal, Kirori College, to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Ritik. Thank you, Ritik. Thank you for inviting me. It's my privilege to welcome everyone here on behalf of Kirori College to this conference on disability, resistance, disruption, and transgression. This is being held in collaboration with the Center for Disability Research and Training and the Indian Disability Studies Collective, which has been generous enough to give us the opportunity to host this conference. IDSC is a much older group, and CBRT is very young. It's just a few months, maybe 2.5 months old. And so it's a privilege to be partners in this interaction and discussion that promises to be extremely fruitful. My very, very special thanks to Principal of Khalsa College, Professor Jaswinder Singh, who as always is very generous with his comments. I must here say that actually he's the one who leads and is in dominant leading positions a lot of times, because he takes decisions, he inspires confidence, and he is a very, very ready collaborator. It's clear from what he has said that he is committed to the social and academic arena, and it's evident from the focus areas that are right there in Khalsa College. So it's an honor to collaborate with you, with Khalsa College and IDSC for this program, a week-long program. As I said earlier, the Center for Disability Research and Training was established just a couple of months back. And the mandate it has is to promote disability studies as a legitimate field of academic inquiry. The hosting of this present conference is a part of that continued endeavor. I deeply appreciate the efforts of Professor Sumeshwar Sati and the whole core committee of CBRT, who have got together along with members of IDSC. I have met Ritik. Thank you very much. Thanks to you and the other team members for making this possible. A very, very warm welcome to all our participants. More than 50 participants from across India and different parts of the globe. Thank you for becoming a part of this program because I think participants are the most important part of any program. And we do hope that you would feel enriched by the time we finish this program. We are extremely fortunate to have with us Professor Tom Shakespeare, who will deliver the keynote address. Thank you, Professor, for finding time to be with us. We are keenly looking forward to your talk. We are also looking forward to the plenaries by Professor Stephen Kusisto, Professor Fiona Kumari Campbell, Professor Sandhya Limai, and Professor Anita Ghai. Thank you, all of you. Last month, we had organized a series of webinars in which we invited very important, eminent disability scholars from across the globe, including Professor Leonard Davis, Professor Nicholas Watson, Professor Dan Goodley, Professor Margaret Shildrick, Professor Anne Goldsmith, and many other renowned disability scholars from across the world. That was a greatly big learning experience, and in parts, very intense. It opened up ways of reading, approaching, interpreting disability, the arena of disability itself. This present program is a part of a continued attempt to popularize disability studies within the Indian academia and to try and institutionalize it as a legitimate critical tool of academic inquiry. I'm sure that over the next 5 days, we shall try to understand and deliberate upon complex issues of resistance to normative understanding of disability and try to diffuse and transgress these notions to evolve alternative ways of knowing and thinking about difference of all kinds. I once again welcome all of you, and I am confident that the next 5 days would be an intellectually engaging week. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you, ma'am, for all the kind words, for updating us. Thank you for everything that you have done.